Industry Insider coming to you from Ormy 2013, and joining me is the always smiling Kerry Clark from Calgary Folk Festival.
True?
How are you?
Is that true?
Yeah,
I'm
always.
Good.
You're always
okay.
smiling when we catch up.
Oh, that's good.
How are you doing, mate? You well?
I'm good, yes. How are you doing?
I'm great.
You're saying, how are you doing? What's that going on with that?
I don't know. Is that?
Don't you say, how are you go?
What do Australians say?
You say, how do you go?
How do I go?
Don't you say that?
No,
really?
well-
You said, how are you doing? It was like
How you doing?
you're speaking Canadian.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was Canadian.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
We say that, yeah.
Yeah.
But people say here, how do you go?
Really? I haven't heard that.
You have.
I haven't heard that.
You have.
Maybe I have, and I've just decided to ignore it because
Okay.
it sounds better speaking like a Canadian.
I see, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
How's Ormy been for you this year?
Good, yeah. It's
Yeah.
always interesting meeting colleagues and artists and seeing some music and, really getting and trying to really learn about the Aboriginal culture here and some of the artists and some of the more interesting artists. And so I think Ormy's a perfect place to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been travelling a lot this year too. You've been travelling a little bit more than usual.
No,
from
about
what
the
I
same.
know?
Yeah,
About the same?
I go to Europe to the WOMAX conference, which
Yeah.
is a world music conference.
Yeah.
And then I do some traveling around. So
Yeah.
just about the normal.
Yeah, just book.
Yeah,
just,
spoiled,
just
you know?
sport, traveling the world, booking bands.
And yeah, exactly, yeah.
Now, tell us, for people that have not met you before at the conference, don't know too much about you, tell us your background. I know that you started in community radio. Mm-hmm. Take us through that, how you got into the business and where you are now.
I guess kind of mostly good luck and some good management.
Yeah.
So, I basically right in university I got involved with campus radio in Canada. I don't know what it's like here, but certainly it's campus community radio, and they're often located in campuses, but there's a lot of community people that are involved, and they're licensed by our national licensing CRTC. And they include a lot of, it's mostly volunteer, and so lots of different kinds of music, mostly non-commercial music. So, jazz, blues, hip hop, electronica, and programmers come with their own set of interests, and then learn a lot more when they're there. And you do your own show, and you have certain parameters, like you have to play a certain amount of Canadian music and some of the newer music that's on what we call the playlist. But other than that, you have kind of free reign depending on what the format of your show is. So I started out there, and it just kind of one of those things where CBC, our national broadcaster, had a program called Brave New Waves, and it was all what is now called indie music, which was then alternative music, and it was really brilliant. It started late at night, and it kind of united the country, as CBC does, but united people who like different kinds of non-commercial musics and punk rock and new wave, and so I listened to that, and when I hit university and found out about college radio, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
Yeah, okay.
And so I went and got involved, and I thought, I'd be willing to take out the trash mostly, and I got really involved really quickly and became the news director and then the program director as a volunteer. So I spent my last 2 years of university being a volunteer program director and kind of spending 40 hours a week at the radio station and whenever I wasn't in class. So I kind of feel like I got my BA in radio, even though I didn't technically.
Yeah.
And then during that time, I met some friends in residence, and they always went to the Vancouver Folk Music Festival, which was a bit more established than Calgary, where I was from. I went to University of Victoria in BC. And I went and just was blown away by the diversity in music. That someone from a small town in Eastern Europe that looked like they hadn't ever left their village, let alone the country. Kind of playing some kind of thing, banging on some kind of violin, or Kev Carmody. That's the first place I ever saw Kev play. Punk rockers, singer-songwriters, traditional music, modern music, and so I really kind of fell in love with what folk music was, or folk festivals were, and it sort of was the embodiment, I think, of what I found at campus radio, which is, original music, independent music, very creative songwriting and approaches to music was what you saw live at folk festivals. And then when I moved back to Calgary after I finished university, I ended up getting on the board of the festival. And then they had an opening for the artistic director position, and I was very green. I had booked a few tours for some artists, and I had started an African festival. But other than that, I really had no experience. I was 27, I think. And I ended up getting the job. It was a very small festival at the time, and I've been there ever since in various forms, always involved in programming.
How many years now? It's been quite a long time.
I think almost 20. I kind of keep saying 18, and I'm kind of
You don't want to
leaving it
get
at
to
that.
20?
No, I'm not going past 18. So, but yeah, so I kind of lucked into that, and the festival did quite well the first year I was involved, and lost quite a lot of money the second year, and so then all kinds of things happened, and we had a producer come in that I worked with, and then that changed, and then I got to be artistic director again, and it's evolved from a 2-day festival to a 4-day festival plus the boot camp, and we had 1.5 staff and I was the half staff, and now we have 14. So it's evolved a lot and grown, and that's kind of my history.